our senses. We had your back up to the wall. We're building your defenses. I see the seconds turn steady K. And you hear them calling to I know it. And now there's nothing left here to save. Take hold, hear my call. Bitter reverie, you remember me, smiling as we fall. Colors, two shades of gray. Come along with me, where we ought to be. We're importing you before you can fade away. Colors, two shades of gray. Come along with me, where we ought to be. We're importing you before you can fade away. Bitter reverie, you remember me, smiling as we fall. Colors, two shades of gray. Come along with me, where we ought to be. We're importing you before you can fade away. As we fall, colors, two shades of gray. Come along with me, where we ought to be. We're importing you before you can fade away. You made it. I had to use the last of my energy to bring you back. Just be good, okay?
Hi, I'm PJ Vogt, and a while ago I found out about this group of friends online who'd gotten completely obsessed with this photo of a stranger. They started investigating every possible detail of this guy's life.
One of the details was the AC unit. This probably isn't a dorm room, but it probably isn't mom's house. It's probably someone's college apartment.
It goes on for 10 years, and then they learn that this guy has died under mysterious circumstances. To find out what happens next, listen to Reply All episode 79, Boy in Photo. Tap now to listen on Spotify.
Thanks for listening to Spotify. No, really. You could have listened to the radio. You could have spun some vinyl. You could have played a cassette tape. You could have listened to an 8-track tape. If you knew what an 8-track tape looked like. But you listened to Spotify. Thanks for that. And you still have hundreds more playlists to enjoy.
Here we go into a new tomorrow. Every joy and every dark and sorrow. This time tomorrow I'll be far away, 1,000 miles in some direction, with less than 24 hours left today. Why am I so out of time about you? It's now or never, shoot my shot. This time I've got nothing to lose. I'm going for it with all I got. I'm on the line with something to prove. Now or never, I got one more chance. If I don't try this time, we'll never do it again. And now there's no more time in a convenient trance. Do I pass you by or I see this through the If I could get the nerve to say hello, I'd stand above all the noise pollution. I cannot bear anymore to watch you go. I'm shouting out in a new solution. It's now or never, shoot my shot. This time I've got nothing to lose. I'm going for it with all I got. I'm on the line with something to prove. Now or never, I got one more chance. If I don't try this time, we'll never do it again. And now there's no more time in a convenient trance. Do I pass you by or I see this through the This time tomorrow I'll be far away, 1,000 miles in some direction, with less than 24 hours left today. Why am I so out of time about you? It's now or never, shoot my shot. This time I've got nothing to lose. I'm going for it with all I got. I'm on the line with something to prove. Now or never, I got one more chance. If I don't try this time, we'll never do it again. And now there's no more time in a convenient trance. So do I pass you by or I
Hello and welcome to the Omega Republic, a radio podcast program for the furry and brony community. I am your host, Coppercat. Joining me today is a fursuit medic by the name of OhSugarFoot. Say hello.
Hello.
Very happy to have you with us today.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us here on Suiting Up for Life, where we seek out those in the furry fandom and get to know what it's like to be a furry and/or brony, and what they do to what they do to make who they are a part of the community. And no, you are not. Glad to have you. We just have Tiberius just now joining us as well.
Yeah. Didn't want to be late for my own party. Have you started yet?
We just started.
Oh, good. Good.
Is it the same paper?
Yes, yes. Before we begin, we also like to mention that the charity that has been chosen is a bullying charity. Oh, Sugarfoot, would you care to give a brief description of this charity?
So this is actually a charity I've come across through Winnie Cine PonyCon. It's called Generations Against Bullying, and they talk about how, you may be bullied as a child, but bullying is going to carry with you through your entire life. And as a child, I was horrifically bullied for a number of years. And they've done so many great things overall, and they're actually working on expanding with the Boys and Girl Scouts of America to introduce badges. And they're just a very helpful Wisconsin-based charity that I've definitely gotten to know over the years and definitely support.
Nice. We like to mention to our viewers that for every like that this video receives, we of the Omega Republic will donate $1 to the charity for the next 30 days, max at 100, towards helping better victims' futures. All right. Now let's get to know our guest with us today. First up, how long have you been part of the fandom, and what brought you here?
So I'm not fully into either fandom for furry or brony community. But I've gone to Midwest Fur Fest for the last 2 years, and I've also been to Winnie City and Cider Fest, I believe now for the last 2 years each. Winnie City and Cider Fest, I go as a special events staff member, but Midwest Fur Fest, I go just as like a cosplay and fursuit medic. And so I'm not really deeply in either fandom. I just kind of like, and I'm an outlier on both.
It's a safe
Just
place to
sort
be.
of more or less an assistant, but also more just kind of like a bench, not really a bench warmer, a spectator.
Bench warmer.
Yeah, a spectator is a good way to put it.
Oh, that's a lot better than bench warmer. So I mean, it's interesting that you say that. It's not everyone has to be, not everyone has to have a sona or has to be, saying that they're an animal of some sorts to actually be able to enjoy this fandom from your experience.
Cool. Oh, definitely from my experience, both communities have definitely opened up their arms and wings and scales, and hooves for just what I'm able to do. And that's fix cosplays and fursuits.
Oh, they'll be very grateful for that. Trust me.
Um, if you have either of you been to Midwest Fur Fest?
Unfortunately,
Yes.
I have not.
If any of the viewers have, for the last 2 years, I am the medic that sits in the Hyatt all weekend and fixes fursuits. Because I don't even buy a badge to Midwest Fur Fest. I
Oh,
sit at
damn.
the Hyatt and basically volunteer my time.
That's pretty gracious of you.
Yes,
it's
actually.
it's a lot of
Oh,
fun. Sorry.
no, it's fine. Uh, but yes, I do recall. I actually had a chance to meet you, but you probably wouldn't remember because you had a lot of people around you at the moment. But I was one of the volunteers at Midwest Fur Fest who had approached you. I believe it was Saturday afternoon and asked you how much longer you were going to be there. Um, but yes, I do recall you. You were stationed at like I think it was the fountain next to the escalators.
It's it's the Hyatt sculpture, and anyone who's been to Rosemont and the convention center there knows the Hyatt sculpture. And I usually
Yes.
just bring my kit and my backpack and a big sign, and I sit there generally several days in a row for about 10 hours at a time. The
My goodness.
first year I was able to do all 3 days of the convention. For this year, I could only do Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Hmm.
And hopefully, this upcoming December, as long as everything continues on with Midwest Fur Fest, I'm going to be there for as many days as I can.
Hmm. Yeah, at the moment things are looking a little sketchy, but we're all gonna keep our collective appendages crossed.
Yes.
Hopefully, it blows over too, and so we can go back to going to conventions again.
Yeah, my biggest next upcoming one would have been, we just passed it, but Winnie City and then ASEN, and both of those got canceled out, unfortunately.
Oh, so it's not just furry cons, but also brony cons that you attend as well.
BronyCons, and I done Anime Milwaukee, and Anime Central, and those Midwest based, and those are the major ones I go through every year.
Oh wow.
And with anime too, I'm not in their fandom. I just only started watching My Hero Academia, and that's the most recent anime. Like, as you said, I'm a good outsider in all these fandoms. I just have skills that I know people can definitely use during conventions.
Oh yes. Okay. Well, that pretty much covered. I mean, that definitely touched up a little bit more on the next question. Tiberius.
Which one are we on?
Two.
2. Yeah, it basically asks whether how much what you do to contribute, but you've already said that you help repair suits and
Mm-hmm.
cosplays and everything else without any form of compensation, which is again very admirable.
Yeah, the only thing I really ask for is shout outs online, just so people kind of know where I am or what I'm doing. And I do usually carry like a small tip jar on me, and just that's only just to replace supplies. That's not even just to break even.
Yeah, that's
I
good enough.
never, I never want to outcharge someone, and then they have a bad con, and then I feel bad for not helping, and
Yeah,
that's no good at all.
something to you do need something to at least help fund your things. You can't do it from nothing, but
Even just a shout outs just even do a lot, and um that helps a lot.
yeah. Is there anything that you really have been thinking of doing towards the future, or do you really intend on doing what you're doing now throughout for the foreseeable future?
Just being able to branch out to more conventions. I would love to make other conventions. I know there's plenty of brony and furry conventions I'm not able to get to, whether it's time or expense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But getting my name out there so that these conventions can approach me
Yes. That's
is
definitely.
that's definitely something I'm trying to slowly work towards.
Yeah, that's the point I want to get to, is to have them offer to fly you there so you can help, give your service.
Hmm.
But I mean, really, you just want to keep doing what you're doing for the rest of time. Really, you don't really intend on changing what you're doing, or if anything, is there anything that you feel like you want to improve or change the way you do, or are you just completely content with what you're doing, the way you're doing things now?
Skill sets, I'm looking to expand a little bit more, and just learn like new stitches and more ways to like join together things on the fly. Like props is usually what I
Yeah.
struggle most with, helping out with props. Other than that, my goal is to stop having to rely on my cardboard box signs and get like a really big, beautiful, collapsible like PVC pipe sign. And then I'm definitely looking on expanding my bag because over the last 4 years I've had my red bag. Um, I've definitely outgrown it. So I'm trying to find something that both carries everything I need to carry, isn't
Yep.
too heavy, and can still go up and down escalators like at Anime Milwaukee and Anime Central.
Yeah. Well, you definitely feel like it seems like you've definitely got it all figured out. You definitely know what you
I
want.
don't know. I know what I want. I don't know how to go about it yet.
Well, that's what time's for. There's plenty of time to do
That's,
that.
yeah.
Do you ever do collab work with other, I guess, what you would call cosplay medics?
There's a couple that I recognize. There's one that I bump into a lot at Anime Central, and there's been times where we've been basically like back to back helping out a queue of people um that just see us for our signs. And I'm sure you're showing off my signs now, but like um my sign's very tall and hers isn't, so I always got all the attention. Because that's the sign that you guys see is actually on like an oscillating pole, so I can put it up about 10 feet.
Oh.
So that it's over everyone's heads, and that's what my goal is. And there's been a couple of people that have approached me over the years that are like, hey, we're trying to make up a cosplay medic group so we can get to at least one person to every convention possible. And unfortunately, those always seem to fizzle out.
Hmm. So you're definitely not the only one who's in these fandoms that repairs these suits. It's
No.
definitely. Were you the only one at? Were you the only one available at MFF?
I was the only one that I knew of, and I know staff directed a lot of people towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably because I was like a repeat face that they had seen 2018, and they knew I did good work and, helped out a lot. Um, but again, I only stayed at the Hyatt Sculpture, and there were like, I think all 3 days I normally had a queue of people, so the most I could do was run and use the washroom and come back and continue helping.
Oh my.
So I had no idea at Midwest Fur Fest. I think the longest the queue time got at Midwest Fur Fest was probably about 30 minutes.
Oh gosh.
And even then I was like, come back in about 30 minutes because there's like 4 people ahead of you.
Oh my.
It gets hectic there. There was the Saturday that I was there last year. I came in with snacks and a coffee, and by the end of the day, I got through one snack and one coffee because I did not have time to sit.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure that the fandom appreciates your service and how much effort you put into just keeping these these lovable suitors going.
hmm I know they do. There's people that I see at other conventions that are like, "Hey, I recognize you from Midwest Fur Fest. I was in such and such suit," and I'm like, "I thank you for recognizing me, but I don't remember you. There's so many people."
What what is the what's the normal like that you deal with, like just busted seams, I guess?
Busted seams is a pretty big one. Uh, or a lot of suitors I've noticed don't always leave a lot of seam allowance. So it's like maybe glued together overlapping pieces or foam, like fur super glued to foam, and
Hmm.
that comes off. So depending on how I fix it, it's a needle and thread, or I found like magic double-sided sticky tape that fuses almost everything to anything else. So needle and thread and tape are like my go-tos, but it's busted seams, um, props breaking, just holes in suits from being worn out. Those are the much more common ones.
Hmm. What is probably the one of the most difficult fixes that you can recall?
Two actually. So one of them, it was my first year at Anime Milwaukee, and I'm not entirely sure of the suitor or the first suit, but I think it was like a satyr suit with a lot of tension because the the legs were like stretched over foam, and the person's undercarriage for probably about 18 inches ripped all the way up.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. Um uh and so that one was probably one of the tougher ones I've ever had to do because not only was it in a very awkward position, um it was also under a lot of tension, and I was just trying to get the pieces together to hold and using my invisible thread to pull together. That one took a little bit.
Mm.
um and then there was one at last year's MFF where the leg fabric was slightly too short for the shoes, and it had been hot glued together and it hadn't stuck. And so I was basically like, I can force a needle and thread through the soles of the pads, which were probably about almost an inch thick, and force it together and make it look really good. It's just going to take me a while because everyone else is coming, and I don't ever want to prioritize a long fix over shorter fixes to get people out.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I bent about 4 or 5 needles, and it took me probably over an hour to fix that one because it was literally like forcing the needle with a thimble on my thumb through the foam to catch the fabric to come back down again.
Oh my goodness.
But even I did 2 practice stitches to kind of see if that would fit before we decided it would be better for the person to come out of the suit. And those 2 practice test stitches held. So that's why he bundled it all up and brought it all down, and that was probably again, I went through 4 needles, so when I never bend a needle, they just go dull. I went through 4
Mm.
needles and bruised my thumb.
Oh
Oh
no.
my goodness. That's a very bad thing to do.
That's a big one.
So those were probably the tougher fursuits, and then I want to say ASEN 2 years ago. I had never fixed ripped seam in pants ever. Ever. Not I've been doing cosplay medic on and off now for like probably about 5 or 6 years. And there was one ASEN where I fixed the ripped pants of like 4 different people.
Mhm.
And up and including one gentleman who had to hide in the bathroom and get somebody to bring his pants out to me.
Oh
Oh
no.
my goodness.
Because it
Oh,
was so
no.
bad.
Uh, do you keep like patches with you, I guess?
Um, Most of those it was seam rippage, which is really simple to put together again because you just match
Mhm.
the seams up, and I almost always do a ladder stitch on everything, and that holds especially with the invisible thread because it's almost like fishing line, so it
Hmm.
matches every color and is stronger. Um, and then usually if it's the fabric that shreds, I patch it up as best I can and then duct tape the inside just to help them get through the convention. And
If it
between
works.
those two fixes, if it works, it works.
The best you can do.
Most of the time, it's just to get them through the day because a lot of people switch cosplays or fursuits like for the next day. Um, and if it works,
Oh, you okay?
yeah, it was just a hiccup.
I gotcha. Well, we'll need to skip a few questions. So, being what you are, walking among society, do you feel more or less alone than before you became what you are? Has it opened up any more opportunities towards making friends?
Um, I think it has. I don't have like a huge social media presence. Usually for those people who do want to follow me, I mostly only post a lot around convention times and maybe like some crafts or pictures of my cats that I put up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely been a couple of people who have reached out to me, who are like, "Hey, what's your suggestion on this?" Or um especially like those one-off con friends being
Mm-hmm.
able to be like, hey, I learned that this foam can't work with this glue, and I'm like, I'll try to remember that. um so like I don't want to say lonely, or like there's a lot of people who, like I said, recognize me from different conventions, or people that I recognize from different conventions that I see at a completely random other convention, and being able to like help them time and time again is definitely, you know, very friendly.
Hmm. So it's it's opened up doors towards a clientele, a clientele group for you. Not really friends, but still kind of friends. I mean, friendly, I guess is the way to say it. And
Yeah,
and would you say you've gained at least a few friends since you started doing this?
I definitely have. In both fandoms, and all fandoms that I circle around but don't actually join.
I
That's fair
gotcha.
enough, as long as you get a friend from either side. Any
Hmm.
side.
And there's so many friendly and nice people through every con I've come across, even the ones like furries and bronies that, I don't follow either fandom very closely at all, and they still always welcomed me and what I can do with open arms, and that's just lovely.
Well, when you do what you do for the people of the convention, especially for people who work so hard to be able to afford the finances, to finance a suit or a cosplay or something, especially when these things take a lot of time as well. People are bound to be very appreciative for what you do. It's no small task you're doing for the people, especially for no payment, or if not
Mhm.
very little.
I just like to help. I want people to have a good time at a convention. I don't want their very important prop to break right before a photo shoot. I don't want them to, have a compromising rip and either have to change out or not realize and be, embarrassed. Like, I just want people to have a great time at conventions.
Yeah, because a ripped suit can definitely ruin someone's day.
Mhm. And I know those can definitely go in the thousands.
Yeah.
Hmm. Based on what you've seen, I mean, this gets more into the business side rather than the personal side. But have you noticed like quality between makers? Like you've noticed makers that you tell people just to stay away from, and there's other makers you kind of steer people towards.
I'm so far outside of the fandom, I can't give a nod to makers um or like dissuade people from other ones because I don't know suits, I don't know heads, I don't know paws. Um, if I do notice like uh when working on a suit, oh, this thread ripped, but I can tell you that the rest of this seems like it's gonna rip because it's not tight enough, or the seams aren't great, or it's held together by hot glue and hope. I definitely let them know, as someone who doesn't make suits but repairs suits, here's things that I've noticed that are going to mean your suit's probably going to need more repair in the future, and try to give them examples. And there's been a couple of times where I've been in the middle of fixing like a floppy ear that's come off the base, and I stitch it one ear and I test the other one. I'm like, this one's too loose. I'm just gonna fix it now since I'm here. Um, so there's been a couple of times I've gone through, or I fixed a couple of plushes and they come up for one issue, and I'm like, I'm actually noticing a couple of other smaller holes. I'm gonna fix those too. So, but I don't know specific names either way.
My God. But you've gained kind of a trained eye to you know what to look for if a suit is going to
Mhm.
break apart.
Yes, and definitely I would suggest staying away from suits and plushes that seem to be held together by hot glue. I hate the stuff. I, there's so many other better ways to put things together that isn't going to rip the foam it's hot glued to, or shred, or tear, or anything like that. Definitely look for someone who like double stitches their suits versus like a single loose stitch, because that's just once it starts unraveling, it's gone.
Yeah.
um, and make sure that like the suits that you buy are definitely tailored to you with like a tiny amount of wiggle room, because having something too tight or too short is going to cause a lot of issues as well.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you always want something like that to be a little bit bigger, like like shoes, really, or anything, just
Mhm.
to take into account the movement and the stretching and stuff.
Mhm.
You don't want it to
And
fit
I'm
like a
not.
glove. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. And another suggestion I would get for people who wear like uh foam feet is to like make sure again the shoe isn't just hot glued into the foot.
Mm.
Um and I don't know where to find it, but I know there's plastic coverings out there that you could put under your feet to help protect them from getting dirty. And same thing with tails. And I definitely suggest both of those.
Hmm. Okay.
Basically, to avoid hot glue altogether.
Yes, I hate this stuff so much. I hate it so much. I have it with me because there's a few things that it's like there's nothing else I can do other than hot glue and then reinforce with duct tape. But even then, usually duct tape takes care of it much better.
Oh, duct tape is silver.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, to be in your shoes 5 minutes before the menagerie opens. Oh my. Or worse, if a suitor has like 5 minutes for a photo shoot. Oh my goodness.
There was again, I don't know names or any of that, but a lady came by running by because her fursuit had like circles in the design, I guess, and a couple of the circles in the fursuit started to come apart. So I was just like 20 minutes before her photo shoot and panel trying to patch her up.
Oh my goodness.
As she was running through the Hyatt to get to her panel.
Oh my. You must
Yikes.
you really must know how to meditate to, stressing out. Avoid stressing out.
When it comes to conventions like that, there's no time to do anything other than help. Like I said, the one Saturday at Midwest Fur Fest, I drank most of my coffee and had most of a Cliff Bar, and other than that, I did not have time to sit down, and the few times I did was me trying to upload pictures onto my Instagram.
Oh my.
So, but it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun, and con tired might be a completely different type of tired, but it's still so enjoyable to help out.
Mhm.
It's worth the experience. And the
It
obviously
is.
helping people.
It is. And Midwest Fur Fest and the Anime Central are like 20 minutes from my house. So they're
Dang.
very close.
That's useful.
Lucky.
Even then, I stay at my stepmom's house, which is like 5 minutes from there.
So you're pretty set for as far as MFF goes, and the other
Mhm.
one,
And Anime Central, yeah.
Anime Central.
That one, that would have been in May.
Yeah.
So they canceled that.
Ugh.
And Winnie City got moved from April to the current time is July, but obviously we're all gonna see how everything shakes out over the next couple of months.
We'll have to. We don't have much of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to hope.
Wasn't there a Comic-Con that followed MFF the next week?
I think Chicago Comic Con is usually around December or January. I haven't been to any Comic Cons yet, unfortunately. Those always price me out pretty quickly.
I understand. I just checking. Wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tiberius, would you care to word the seventh one in your own words?
All right. Really, what I should be asking is, you're not really part of the fandom. It words it in saying that since you become part of the fandom, well, since you started doing the work and the help for these conventions, is there anything that you might have changed doing in your day-to-day life outside of helping repair suits and cosplays? Just around either around the house or whatever.
Because of my ever increasing like ability with hand sewing, like sewing machines are witchcraft. I don't know how to work them yet. I am going to be slowly working on duplicating some dresses I got off of Amazon and then making my own based off of those.
Yep.
And that comes from learning the stitches that I currently use for like fursuits and everything like that I learned off of Instagram.
Of course.
so it's just learning new ways to like help out, learning new ways to do different things. I also take those like sewing skills and craft different things that you'll find on my Instagram, like the Pokemon that I've done and the oddish that is up there. That's completely 100% hand patterned by myself. And I think he's about 18 inches tall with his leaves. So just I take the skills that I learn to turn around and do other things so that I can learn more skills, and hopefully, once we have more space and my cats stop knocking everything off my tables, I'm going to try and start making things like paws and feet and other smaller things for the communities and start branching out from there.
Yeah, I mean, with the experience that you're getting, you might be able to start dipping your feet into actually making suits. Although it's probably way too early to start considering that. But with all your learning, it
Hmm.
wouldn't be too far gone to start thinking about making your own. Because as time consuming and difficult that can be, it's a very good way to make money.
Yeah.
And it does help a lot of people. Something people look for is another fursuit maker and another design, or even just regular
Mhm.
clothes. And I don't doubt it helps when you're repairing your own clothes when something breaks.
Yeah. Uh,
Something I was. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll continue on. You can answer that. Those little bits there. If there's anything you want to say.
my only uh I want to say limitations on that frame right now is I don't know how to like structure foam blocks for like heads.
Yeah.
That seems to be quite daunting, and I'm not an artist. I can't draw anything better than a stick figure. So it's basing things off of stuff that I can already
Yeah.
look at, and then it's like, did I make it or did I steal it? Like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to get better at both of those things before I can start moving forward.
Yeah, it's true. Because I kind of forgot, but it does involve, if you want to make a head, you have to kind of shape the foam with. Well, what I've seen people do is kind of burn it off, and then make
Mhm.
the head out of that, and then draw the eyes and everything else. But yeah, that's definitely one of the things. But as far as fabric goes, you could probably make a decent one as far as that goes. But something was also curious of, is there anything that you kind of do in your spare time apart from that, like kind of little embroidery or little doilies, or you know what I mean?
Um,
Things
I
like
do.
that.
I crochet amigurumi, which is the oddish Pokemon that you've probably looked over my Instagram now with. And I have a shop with that. That's not very big, and that's okay because I'm still an essential worker in these trying times.
Mm.
And I can also turn around and make things off of patterns. Um, and mostly I craft, play Overwatch on Xbox, and I've been addicted to Animal Crossing recently.
Oh,
and, and
very
that's how
impressive.
I waste all my spare time.
It's how everyone's getting through the quarantine right now.
Hmm.
You see, I'm having a tough time understanding. Is Animal Crossing just really that addicting?
Yeah, apparently yes.
There's a lot of stuff you need to make money to do upgrades and get more things. So you have to grind tasks to get the money. And so then you upgrade, and then you're like, I don't like the way this works, so you have to put more money into it to upgrade and buy more things. And I've only had it for a week now.
Oh my goodness.
And there's ways to time travel and hack the game slightly and stuff, but you can't give $50 into the game and get in-game currency. You can't really do that. So for those legitimately playing, it takes a while to build up and do things, and it's never a game that fully ends. There's always going to be something new to get. There's always going to be someone new to talk to, and I like it for just being able to zone out and accidentally dump a couple of hours into it.
Oh my. Well, if it helps people get through the crisis, I won't say nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where were we? Sorry, I think I interrupted something.
Question 7. No, I was finished. We're at question
Oh.
7. Is there anything you want to add or you want to ask before the last question? Copper.
I'm thinking, no, and at the moment I can't really think of anything. But suppose you met someone who was new to the fandom. Just came up to you, had no clue about what to do or who to talk to or who to see. And granted, your perspective is limited from what you've experienced, but you have had several years of experience. But they don't really know what to do or where to start or exactly, what exactly to expect. But is there any advice that you could give to new people to help them, get through the fandom and just find ways to enjoy it themselves?
When it comes to Brony fandom, I would definitely suggest, sit down and actually watch the show. I've I've seen like 4 seasons of it, but sit down and watch the show and like find a character that you really, agree with. And then I definitely, for when I was in the Brony fandom for a tiny bit, and even then still an outsider, I didn't really interact with anyone. The music that came out of the Brony fandom was amazing. And just sitting down and like listening to all the different types of music and covers and original songs and instrumentals and all of that is just a great way to start like recognizing names and recognizing people and personalities. And then when it comes to the furry fandom, I definitely suggest, I don't have it myself, but definitely suggest looking around at all the different fursuits on TikTok and all the different things that those fursuits can do. Because there are some amazing suits out there.
Oh, yeah.
Like they light up, the jaw moves when they talk, they have voice boxes, like, just looking at all the different, variety and how in both fandoms you can be who you want to be. You can make your OCs and make your OCs to fit into whatever subset of those fandoms you wanted to fit, like scallies and those with wings, and I don't know the proper terms, I'm sorry. But you can be yourself, and you don't even have to go all the way up to a fursuit or a full, My Little Pony cosplay. You could do closet cosplays and just have a head and paws, or even just a head, and you know for both of them, you can just be yourself, and that's the one thing I love about both fandoms.
So you just tell them to just do what you got to do. Enjoy being there, and don't be afraid, and just get out of your shell.
Mhm. And definitely like I said, everyone's I've come across has always been so friendly and always has so many resources and knows who to talk to and who else to introduce you to, and both fandoms are just really awesome.
That is so awesome.
That is one of the main features I have found that people mention when part of either of the two fandoms is that they're both very, very accepting and very open.
Hmm.
You don't have to worry about being judged. No, I mean you'll be judged. That'll happen everywhere, but
Yeah.
not on such a large scale that you can't show your own image. You can't. You don't have to be afraid to be who you are. There'll be people who will judge you no matter what. But by and large, there are a lot of very accepting and very kind, very open-armed people in both fandoms, and that's partially most of what I've seen is why people join them in the first place, and the content is secondary.
Hmm. Definitely. And we all can grow and learn to be better people every day, and the fandom is a great way to help explore different ways to do that.
For sure, for sure.
And in fact, when Coppercap reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'd love to interview you," and I turned around and I was like, "I'm not really in either." He was just so accepting about the fact that, I may not be the normal person who is a part of these fandoms. And even then, like, he was still so accepting
Heck yeah.
and so lovely.
Well, that's what we're here for. We here at the Omega Republic are here to make sure people like you, especially with the work that you do, get as much exposure as you can, so you can help more people and bring more people to what you do. So, especially in your case, you do such an admirable job at conventions for both and even anime conventions and things like that. I don't think there's anything about you that people will dislike unless they actively look for it. And kind of, there are a lot of people who look too hard, but any natural person will look at what you do and think it's very admirable and very, very humble and very, very kind. Especially when you do definitely do it for pretty much non-profit.
Hmm. And I just love, like I said, I just love helping people and being able to also go to the conventions and shop a little. That's a little helpful.
Yeah, obviously.
When I was in Anime Milwaukee in February, I would close each day like a half hour early before the con floor closed just so I could go shop.
You can't
but
not go to a dealer's den.
exactly. And especially a lot of anime conventions, they sell food there, so I was able to get snacks, and that helped. Japanese coffee to get through the days. Thumbs up.
That sounds so good.
It's coffee in a can. You don't even have to keep it cold. That's what I like to do.
They have a little tab thing that you pull.
Mm-hmm.
Those are cool.
A lot like the coffee monsters, but without having to refrigerate them. So that's what I would. that's what I would love to do. Is go to more of these conventions, shop, and help as many people as I can.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Help first, shop second.
Yes.
But, make sure you shop.
Yes. Definitely.
Do you ever consider on taking like an understudy with and just teaching them, so like you can have someone else there to help you in case you do have to use the restroom, go get something to eat, get something to drink, take a break? Or is this something that you
my
just see
husband.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
My husband's come to a couple of conventions with me, but he's just there to like watch the sign if I have to run and use the washroom. He has hand issues and can't really hold a needle and thread. And when it comes to other people, like as I fix costumes, I actually go through and I explain to them, why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I'm using an invisible thread, or why I'm doing the stitch that I'm doing, so that, they don't necessarily have to wave down another cosplay medic. They can actually, with a little bit of Googling and YouTubing and stuff, fix it themselves. um, and then this way, they may not have to ship that $1,000 or thousands of dollars fursuit back to get it fixed. They can carefully do it themselves and help it last longer. And then other than that, it's just finding someone that, I can jive with and is local to Chicago and can go to the same conventions and do all of that, or even have the stamina to make it through a 3 or 4 day convention.
So at the moment, you're not seeing as branching out to like a corporation kind of thing, but just kind of keeping it, kind of keeping more of a solo business until you can gain more experience.
um, Probably keeping it solo, just so that I can have the same flexibility and I don't have to necessarily partner up with like a corporation that may not necessarily work with like my current work schedule, or may not always have the same ideals or something that I personally follow.
Mm-hmm.
And um plus it's much easier to be mobile. I call myself like a pop-up shop, because I like have my little sign and I have my backpack and I just pop up at these conventions. And this way I also can just be mobile and go wander around the con floors and fix people as I do it. Um, but having like a name for myself makes it easier too, because I helped out with 2018's Anime Milwaukee. I was able to actually get a visible table at 2019's Anime Milwaukee, and having a stable spot for me to sit right next to convention, like what's it called, like registration, where people know
Yes.
where I'm at.
Mhm.
I've tried to tell other conventions that they don't listen to me, but but having a stable spot where I'm at, where I'm visible, like, is also good too. So it's a trade-off between flexibility and being able to, get my name out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe you were listed in the con book, were you not?
I was for Anime Milwaukee.
Uh, Actually, I think I seen you
It's
in
but
MFF.
I'm not sure about MFF again because I am a pop-up shop. They didn't know if I was gonna be there. And for a lot of these conventions, I have to go by my legal name. So I know for Anime Milwaukee, I was under, oh, I don't know what my book is, but I was under Kimberly H. Um, but it's possible I had a shout out at MFF and didn't know.
Actually, you may have not been in the book. Actually, I do not see you. But I do know that there were staff members who actually did announce you being there once I guess they knew that you were there.
Oh. I know
Yes.
a couple of staff members who walked up and was like, "I'm so glad you're here. Are you staying here?" And I'm like, "I don't have a ticket. I'm staying here." And they just reminded me that I couldn't have a visible tip side. And then they were cool with me sitting there.
I gotcha. Yeah, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that you were mentioned in the opening ceremonies.
Oh. If anyone has a clip of that, I would be over the moon. I know they stream a lot of opening ceremonies these days, so wow. Even the idea of that is like awesome.
Mm-hmm. Again, don't quote me on that because I could not.
Mhm.
I didn't have a chance to stay around for the entire opening ceremonies. Again, volunteer. My time was not my own.
Mhm.
uh,
Well, as long as Midwest Fur Fest and Winnie City both go on, I will be there for both. Anime Central 2020 has been canceled. Um, and then I think Cider Fest is currently still on in October. As long as all three of those are still there, I will be there with my full-blown sewing kit and duct tape and nail polish to seal things in and a whole other medley of random bits and bobs and wig caps and bobby pins and for both of those conventions I bring along like stuffing fluff for plushes. Like I will have all of my stuff there if anyone needs anything fixed. Stop on by and I will fix you.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards. I think my it's slightly outdated, but I think my Instagram has a picture of a majority of my kit.
Sure. If you could do me a huge favor and just give us any relevant links once we finish, and we can post the whole thing up in the description and give every little bit of what's the word?
Shout out.
Give out as much as your portfolio as we can to make sure you can spread out to as many
Okay.
people as you can, because you definitely need it.
And everything is appreciated, even just shout outs, reblogs of the crafts that I do. I'm not really loud, or I don't tweet much on Twitter. I'm slightly more active on Instagram, and even that's just during conventions, which is like 4 to 5 a year. So don't think I'm gonna overtake your feed. And just getting my name slowly out there and what not only I can do, but other cosplay medics can do for conventions. Because it's a needed service, and this way, both the convention and the people going there can have a great time.
At this current time, if you do become more popular, would you say you would make this a full-time job?
I would probably switch over to that. Being able to travel and see other conventions and meet new people and get my name out there and get what I can do out there, like it's my dream.
It was definitely needed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Hey, it's not really that bad of a job to have, to be honest. And like you said, you can you'd be able to travel and all that, and that's amazing. You could have various ways of actually receiving monetarily stuff aside from having the tips jar. You could have a well, I'd say Patreon, but that's kind of a different model of
Yeah.
some way to be able to, even if it's just tips or payment via.
And even for any like conventions that may hear this interview or hear of what I'm able to do, even just subsidies to help with travel.
Yeah.
Because that adds up pretty quick on
Oh.
top of having to take time off of work, even local conventions, if I have to take time off of work, like that starts to add up.
Yeah. It'd be nice.
Aha. I have found my links. So I'm gonna throw that down now.
Good.
Thank you.
Just dump them anyway. You can. There you go.
Promotion. Yeah, there you go.
At this
So it's
current
Etsy,
time,
Twitter, and Instagram.
Yes.
good.
And then
Oh my god, the crochets are adorable.
thank you. And as I've said before, those are all hand patterned by myself. The Togepi hat I made up by myself. The Lotad, the other, what is it, Oddish that I've done. All of those are patterns I made by myself. I didn't like take them off of anything. And
Fully
patterns are
custom.
slowly, and patterns are slowly coming as, oh, never mind, there's one in there. As I work on typing them up. I do everything in shorthand, so having to put it back out into longhand and explain everything is a little time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
It's alright.
And then I do have an email for those who want to reach out by email if needed.
Okay. Good. That's all we need. We can spread those to the masses.
Yes, and that would definitely help out. And even for those who you know, just want an idea of how to fix something or would like, to ask for a suggestion on what they can do to fix a prop or put something back together, like, I will definitely try. And that's usually what I'll tell people is, I may not know how to do this, but we'll definitely try and at least get you through today. And usually that's all you need.
That's the important one.
That's the important one.
Just today, and then we'll think about the rest later.
Mm-hmm.
At this current point in time, have you set up with, say, certain people, of course, that you would trust, to have them mail like parts of their suit to you to have them fix it? Or have you not done anything like that yet?
I have not done anything like that yet. I don't have a secure mailbox, and fursuits can go for a lot of money. And I haven't set up a P.O. box yet, which the P.O. boxes can be too small for fursuits and pieces like that. That's something I've definitely been thinking about. And I need my name to be out there a little bit more before people trust me with big fursuits,
Mm-hmm.
So, but moving forward, that is a goal, is being able to, fix fursuits for a quote and then mail them back and be able to help out, as they say nowadays, socially distancing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we call it social distancing, but there have been some people who have preferred the term physical distancing.
Yeah, I see that.
Because with this wonderful thing that we call the internet, social distancing is only limited by the number of people that you can feel comfortable with socializing online.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back, even if you don't accept repairs, you do have some merchandise that you can make for people and mail out, which you mentioned before.
Yes.
And
And that's the Pokemon Amigurumi.
mhm. And those prices are listed on your Etsy, correct?
That is correct.
Mm.
I I want to say some of the smaller ones start as even as low as $40. And I think the biggest one is the Alolan Executor. And it doesn't seem to be up. Let me let me put it back up. I might have timed out.
That's okay.
And I think that one goes for $100. And that's just because he is a big boy. um,
You probably haven't done any life-size creations just yet.
that is correct. One of my eventual goals is to make a life-size Munchlax
I am not
out of
familiar with that
crochet.
one.
It's it is the baby Snorlax.
One second. Let me find.
There you go. The Alolan Executor is back on my page now. It had timed out. So the Alolan Executor is $100, and that's because he is at like 17 inches tall. He's huge. And the Oddish is 15 with leaves, 15 inches tall.
Oh my. Well. Maybe one day then, right?
Maybe one day, yeah. But the Munchlax, if I were to make it out of crochet, I believe even the baby Snorlax is like 3.5, 4 feet tall. And I just want a pillow to fall into.
So, yeah, I can see that. I'm a bit surprised. Well, I'm more of the original classic 150 Pokemon kind of player, though I have not played in a great while, so that's kind of contributes to that fact.
I am
But
a level 40 instinct player in Pokemon Go who plays entirely too much.
as long as you can, as long as you enjoy it, and as long as you can, not let it get in the way of your day-to-day life, of course.
Of course. I'm again in the Pokemon fandom and all these other fandoms, I'm just in the background. I do my own thing. I have my own fun. And that's what I do.
Well, I think we're just about done for the evening. Tiberius, is there anything you care to add?
I think we've covered just about everything I want to.
Is there anything you need to cover?
Unless you're hinting at something, no.
What makes you think I'm hinting at something?
Because I know you too well.
Do you?
You do the outro.
Oh, fine. You're not going to be any fun.
Oh, we did the last question.
It's only the last question if you make it the last question.
Oh, I don't have any questions. Actually, I do. Is there something from all your time that you spent making, fixing all of these suits and making all of these little amigurumi, and these all the little bits and bobs you make and all the things you fix, is there anything that you currently struggle with today and you wish you would be able to change as far as being a what the word for what do you do is called just thread work, as far as thread work.
I cannot embroider eyes. So you see all these like amigurumis with these really detailed, gorgeous eyes, and I can't do that.
Yeah,
And that's something, and that's definitely something that I'm trying to even research and like learn how to do, because that would definitely bring my personal craft up higher. Um, so that's my I actually have a Mickey Mouse custom order I'm making for a coworker, and I can't find my smaller hooks for my crochet, and my usual cop out of, oh, let's just put in some plastic eyes isn't working. So he's been sitting on my table now for 2 months as I figure out what to do.
Oh no.
So just basically learning how to embroider eyes and small fiddly things like that.
That's your biggest challenge right now?
That
Your
is my biggest challenge. That is my biggest challenge right now, is learning how to do that and finding wherever my hooks decided to run away to.
That too.
So is that one piece that you're missing that you need to rely heavily on?
Yeah, there's always that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has that one thing they have trouble with. Leaves the eyes. But I honestly don't think, as far as the amigurumi go, it can honestly be seen somewhat of a style with a little beady eyes. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
gives them a sort of charm you don't see. It gives them their own charm, but
It works out for some Pokemon. On this particular one, it's not working out so
no.
great. Um, so that's my current struggle bus, and then just finding the time to sit down and, you know, write up my patterns and get my name out there, and there's never enough hours in the day.
Oh no. Thank you.
Well.
All right. Well, now I'm done.
Well, as long as we covered everything that we can, and as long as you've had a good time with us, oh Sugarfoot, which I will call you by, we appreciate you joining us here this evening, or morning, or afternoon, depending on where you are. We thank Oh Sugarfoot for joining us today here on the Omega Republic.
Yes.
Hope to see you next time.
Have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.
Good night,
Later.
everybody. Ta-ta.